OGDuffy back at ya with a versus. Now, we're looking at 3 systems this time out, and we're looking at the 8-bit computer systems of the day, namely the ZX Spectrum by Sinclair, the Commodore 64 and the Amstrad CPC. And we are looking at an absolutely amazing film back in the day, and we're seeing how the game translated. And of course it is that Arnie classic from the 80s, Predator. What can we say? 1980s, early 90s, Arnie Schwarzenegger, he was the man, wasn't he? He was just brilliant at this stuff. I mean, we had Terminator, didn't we? Total Recall, that was quality. And of course, some Predator. Now, Predator, I have to admit, I'm a bit of a fanboy with this film. It's an amazing film.
This stuff will make you a goddamn sexual tyrannosaurus, just like me.
And I've probably seen it about 10 times, all right? The only Arnie film that I personally think is overrated, and I was never a fan of, is Commando.
This is getting better by the minute.
Don't slate me for that though, guys. Don't. It's just my opinion, alright? It's like these Commodore Spectrum verses and all that sort of stuff. Just don't slate me. But if you disagree with me, tell me in the comments, alright? Anyway, so we're looking at Predator on all 3 of the systems this week. Now, obviously, we haven't got an arcade coin-op version because there wasn't one. So we're going to have a look and see how all 3 systems fared, alright? I think this week, though, let's kick off with the Amstrad. Predator on the Amstrad CPC. Here we go. The movie tie-in game of Predator. Now, as I said right at the beginning of this, I absolutely loved the film. So let's see how the game played out. Now, this is the Amstrad version. Now, you know what I'm going to say, because I always say it about the Amstrad, and it is this. The colour palette used on this was really well done. It played nicely, it looked good, the colours were decent, and it rolled along very nicely. The animations of Arnie and stuff were very good, and the backdrops were very nice indeed. The game really works you through several levels, all the time avoiding the Predator's glare, and you don't want to be killed by that, obviously. In total, there were 4 levels to this game. On all the systems we're looking at this week, it did have multi-load on every stage, which was a bit of a ball ache, but hey, you know, that's what it was about back then, wasn't it? You know, we had this pain we had to live with throughout these video games. But anyway, this is the Amstrad version, and like I say, with all 3 systems, we'll be looking at sort of 3 similar stages to the game. We'll be looking at the initial stage where it takes off, the bridge level, which we've just passed the log there, and the final element where you take on the Predator himself. So this was released, I believe, in December. So it was probably obviously aiming for quite a few of the Christmas budget releases, I'd imagine. Get your money. Weird, really, because let's be honest, the majority of people who'd have wanted to play this game would have been under 18, and the film was at 18, of course. And have I even said that I absolutely loved the film? It's a brilliant one. This is the end of the Amstrad CPC version. Next up, we're going to go take a look at the ZX Spectrum version. See how it does. This here is the Sinclair ZX Spectrum version, but looking at the colour scheme, you already knew that. Obviously, graphically, very similar to the Amstrad, but without that great colour palette that the Amstrad has. To be fair, I mean, I haven't done a bad job on this. It looked alright. The colours are obviously monochrome for the various levels. Obviously, they mixed it up when the alien's beam comes along, but you'd expect that from the Spectrum. Sound effect wise was just very blippy, etc. And overall, to be honest, this was your typical movie tie-in license game. It was designed to cash in, as they often did. Overall, it actually got very good reviews in all magazines for all systems, so a bit of a tough one this week on the verses. But let me have your memories, please, of this game and the film in the comments. You know, did you sneak into the cinema under 18 to go and watch this? Did a friend of you get a ticket or whatever? Did you get in to see it? And were you lucky enough to go and see it on the big screen? Unfortunately, I didn't. I wasn't old enough. I'd have loved to have done though. But as I said right at the beginning, it's one of them films I have seen about 10 plus times. I have to admit, I never actually played this version. The only version of this that we're looking at this week is the Commodore 64 version that I actually played round a friend's house. But I never actually owned the game. So that was the Sinclair ZX Spectrum version, and the final version we're going to look at next is the Commodore 64 before my all-important verdict. This here is Predator on the Commodore 64. Now, firstly, I think the big thing here that you can see in difference to the other systems we just looked at is the speed of the character, as in Arnie himself. He plays a lot slower, but the whole jungle, look at it. I mean, they've done like the foreground and the background were done brilliantly, because the other two systems didn't feature the foreground like it did here. And it's really atmospheric. It really does deliver, I feel, on the whole jungle theme of the film. Because let's be honest, the film was a real sort of tense jungle, you know, making your way through, destroying the enemies, but the Predator throughout, it just created such tension. It was so well done, and obviously the jungle aesthetics were a great part of that. And I felt here that the Commodore 64 done a very good job. Although the gameplay's slower, it still played nice. I mean, all three systems here, if you looked at the way that Arnie was animated, he done quite nicely, you know. So we've looked at all three systems, and we're going to sort of compare the same. So we've had to look at the opening sequence. We've seen sort of the Predator triangle that tries to get you. This is the log scene that we've looked on the other systems at. And as you can see, look how beautiful they've done this with the log scene here. I mean, it's just the whole graphic aesthetic of the jungle was so well done, with the foreground as well as the background. Whilst the others just opted for the background. And here we go in the final scene. Arnie taking on the Predator himself before trapping him and saving the day, as he so often did in true Arnie style. So which one takes it? Let's go to my verdict. And to the verdict. But before we do the verdict, let's firstly, if you haven't already done so and you've watched this and you've enjoyed it, please do hit the subscribe button for me. Do what that little fella says, alright? He's a wise man. He likes his beer, you know. Anyway, onwards and upwards. So in third position, I'll give it to the Sinclair ZX Spectrum, alright? Graphically, the sprites and everything else were quite good. I liked the way that Arnie was animated. I thought it was nicely done. Gameplay wasn't too bad. The background graphics of the jungle and stuff were good. Very well laid out. But the one sort of two colours just, it wasn't good enough really, you know what I mean? It just, compared to the others anyway. It was a good game, but compared to the others, it just didn't, it could have done with a bit breaking up in colours a little bit, you know what I mean? But apart from that, it was all right, as I say. Obviously, it was a multi-loader. So you had about a 30-second load between some levels and things, but that was quite normal for some Spectrum games back in the day. So in third position, it goes to the Sinclair ZX Spectrum.
Yeah!
Stick around.
So in second position, it goes to the Amstrad CPC, which obviously means this week's winner is the Commodore 64. But before we come on to the Commodore version, Amstrad version, more colourful than the Spectrum, and made good use of the colour, I felt. I felt that the darkness of the backgrounds and stuff was good, and it was very sitting well with the film, you know, very befitting. So I really liked that bit. I felt it lacked a bit of sound, really. I think the sound could have been improved upon. But overall, all three versions of this game this week aren't too bad at all. So very well done, Amstrad, and obviously Spectrum, but there can only be one, and as we know, the Commodore 64 takes it. What can we say?
There's something out there waiting for us. And it ain't no man.
Commodore 64 version, okay. Graphically, The jungle I thought was so well drawn and done. It was really, really good. I felt the animation on Arnie was great. The way he moved and everything worked really well for the time, you know. The sound was good. You had like the background, you could hear some birds twitting and stuff, and that clicky sound, sort of the funny sound that the alien would make, you know, the Predator. And it worked really, really well. So all in all, a really good side-scrolling shoot 'em, you know, and a really good game on all three systems, I felt. But as always, there can only be one winner. Although there are occasionally draws on here, but not this week. It goes to the Commodore 64, and rightly so. But credit where credit's due. All three versions this week, it made it a good game. Which is strange for a movie tie-in license. You know, usually they're pretty ropey, aren't they? Anyway, I've been OGDuffy. If you haven't already done so, check out some of the older videos, or me pick-up videos, or me playthrough videos, or I do all sorts of retro gaming goodness. Check it all out. Anyway, I've been OGDuffy, you've been awesome, and I'm out.